This has been a weird week on here with me picking games. I'm curious for y'all that pick games, or maybe some of y'all either maybe even bet on these games. Do y'all typically go with your gut? Like, do you go with your first instinct on a game mostly, or do you spend a lot of time looking into things before you pick a game or make a bet? I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious because sometimes I think you can overthink things sometimes. I don't know. All this week for Oregon and Washington, I was leaning Washington at home. Home team, two good teams, two good quarterbacks, hard game to pick. I'll go with the home team, right? That's what I did last week in the Texas A&M Bama game. Didn't work. Bama went on the road and won. And I ended up changing my mind on the Oregon Washington game too. I did that video yesterday. You can go back and watch it. And I ended up going with Washington to win on the road. And I feel like I'm doing the same thing now with this Notre Dame Southern Cal game. I've been leaning Notre Dame all week. Notre Dame's loss last week didn't really factor in for me. Um, Notre Dame's at the tail end now of a tough 4 game stretch. Home against Ohio State, on the road at Duke, on the road at Louisville. Now back home, Southern Cal, the fourth undefeated team in a row they've played. Um, and they're 1-2. Lost to Ohio State, beat Duke, lost to Louisville. I think I'm changing my mind and going with Southern Cal on this one. Like I said, I'm leaning Notre Dame all week, and I don't know if I'm overthinking this. I don't know. Look, Southern Cal's defense is a huge problem, and it's gonna be a problem. Probably multiple times this season, it's gonna cost Southern Cal games. I just don't think it's going to be this week. I think Southern Cal goes on the road and gets a win at Notre Dame. I'm concerned about Notre Dame offensively. They looked so good in the first couple of weeks of the season, and believe me, I understand a who have they played thing. But they just looked unstoppable. Sam Hartman was completing almost 90% of his passes, just touchdown bombs left and right. Audric Estime, that running back, looked like one of the best running backs in the country. Defensively, they were holding everybody under 10 points, it seemed like, and their defense has still played pretty well. It let them down this past weekend against Louisville a couple of times, but offensively, Notre Dame has just disappeared for the last 3 games. You go back and look at the Ohio State game, the Duke game, and the Louisville game, that offense has just disappeared. Sam Hartman looks nothing like what he looked the first 2, 3 weeks of the season, and I don't know. I felt like coming back home, Notre Dame could get right offensively against a Southern Cal team whose defense is just horrific. And it's not like I expect Southern Cal to show up and play a great game on defense. I just, Southern Cal's going to score points here. Look at what Louisville did to Notre Dame last week. Southern Cal is that on steroids offensively. And I know the points they've given up to bad teams, the comeback versus Colorado where they almost gave that away. Last week they let Arizona score 17 points in the first quarter. I'm not on here shilling for Southern Cal's defense, and I don't expect it to play well this week. Honestly, I might trust Notre Dame's offense right now less than I trust Southern Cal's defense. Again, this is a hard game for me to pick. I'm not picking Southern Cal to trash Notre Dame. This is a tough 4 game stretch. I don't know if there's a team in the country that could have went through this 4 game stretch Notre Dame went to undefeated. I'm dead serious. We've all talked this season about how there's not really a dominant team. I mean, maybe it ends up being Michigan, maybe it ends up being Georgia, maybe it ends up being any of another half a dozen teams or so. But it hasn't looked like that so far. And that's just a tough stretch of game. Home against Ohio State, on the road at Duke, on the road at Louisville. It's back-to-back road games. Now you come back home and play the best offense of the bunch in Southern Cal. I don't know. Ohio State's offense has not been great. Duke offensively is pretty limited. It goes how Riley Leonard goes. Louisville's the best offense of the bunch out of Ohio State and Duke that Notre Dame has played. And Louisville was able to take advantage of what appears to be a worn-out Notre Dame team in desperate need of a bye week. That's what it looks like to me. And coming home might help. A little bit of, rejuvenated, playing in front of a home crowd, that kind of thing. I just don't think it's going to help enough. I think Southern Cal comes in and wins this game on the road at Notre Dame. Again, I think it's going to be a great game. But you're getting points here with Southern Cal. Notre Dame's a 3.5-point favorite. I'll take Southern Cal into points. Maybe it's a close game. Maybe Notre Dame kicks a field goal and win it. You take Southern Cal with 3.5 points, that's a winner. Notre Dame wins by 3. I don't know. Am I overthinking this again? My gut was to go with Notre Dame at home. Come back, bounce back deal off of the Louisville loss. Whereas Southern Cal, the last few weeks, appears to be just teetering on the edge of a loss. Like, no one's going to be surprised if at any point you look up and Southern Cal loses a game. So, of course, it could be this one. But I don't know. Again, this is one I'm not going to bet on. I'm not betting on Oregon-Washington. I'm not confident one way or the other enough about it. And I'm not going to bet on this game either. I'm just going to sit back and watch it. This is a primetime game on NBC Saturday night. It's going to be a good one. Rivalry game. One of these games has been played forever. And it is good to kind of watch this game when both teams are nationally relevant again. Even though Notre Dame's lost 2 of their last 3 games, they're still probably a top 15, top 20-ish type of team when it's all said and done. Southern Cal, of course, undefeated so far. Top 11, 12-ish type team in most rankings you look at. It's good to see this game kind of back on the big stage. Reminds me a lot of 15, 16, 17 years ago when these teams played just some absolute classics in the mid-2000s when Pete Carroll was coaching out at Southern Cal. But I think I'm going to cross my fingers, hold my breath, and take Southern Cal in the 3.5 points. But this is going to be a great game. Have a good morning.